You are now watching the whimsically works of ArchWizard CJ. If you enjoy, be sure to like and subscribe.
What's going on, everyone? ArchWizard CJ here with a, wait for it, sponsored video.
Way to go, CJ.
I know, right?
I'm so proud of you, man.
You.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
I love you, CJ, man.
Yeah. And the game I was sponsored to play is none other than Conqueror's Blade. Wait a fucking second, man. Sheesh. Fuck wrong with you? It is not for honor. Shut the fuck up. Can't you see the title? I'm getting there. Sheesh. Fuck. Conqueror's Blade honestly took me by surprise with how it turned out to be. I automatically assumed many things when I was offered the opportunity to sponsor this video, and they weren't necessarily bad things. However, I wasn't necessarily optimistic either, as I honestly had never heard anything of the game. So my expectations were incredibly unbiased because I had zero pretense upon entering the game, neither positive or negative. However, after playing the game for the time at which I did, I can confidently say it's actually not that bad. Pretty fun actually. See, I had no idea this game was like an actual MMO. And once that concept truly set in, I was taken aback by how intimate the combat was whilst maintaining an MMO structure. It heavily reminds me of an MMO I'm very familiar with called DC Universe Online and shares a lot of MMO elements while having, in my opinion, its own identity. You start the game off firstly choosing a somewhat linear range of custom character options before going into a then wide range of combat styles and archetypes to dedicate yourself to. I was impressed by the options they had in terms of fighting. Instead of overarching archetypes, they break it down in a fashion that I feel is respectable for MMORPG standards. I can see similarities to For Honor and how there's extreme variables between the styles, and plainly, if we can be honest, some of these characters are just straight up the same. The tutorial lead-in was a very solid one. After choosing who you want to be, combat-wise and aesthetically, you build up a backstory and a Bandersnatch choose-your-own adventure style of function. Something akin to something like, how Mass Effect had you designing your commander ship. Entering the game, I was welcomed to a somewhat entertaining cutscene. Personally, I thought it was kinda charming, but objectively speaking, this is some shit you would see in 2010, let's be real now. Cheesy cutscene aside, you're immediately prompted into a camp where you have to complete a string of missions before you canonically speaking, earn your freedom and can leave the army to travel outward. This is where the tutorial actually starts. And let me tell you, the tutorial is very sound and it's pretty explanatory. I wasn't confused by a single aspect of it, and the transition between individual roundabouts and whatnot was pretty good. All the while giving me a very inside feel of my hero and their capabilities, or the ones I had unlocked at the time. It wasn't confusing or discombobulated, but it wasn't a long session of Captain Obvious shit either. You really get a feel for your character as you stomp through these Dominion minions with some tactical button pressing, and you get to understand kind of what works, what doesn't as you proceed, and that's honestly about it. I wouldn't really put too much else emphasis on it. Some of the missions actually surprised me though. Even during the tutorial, it still required me to pay attention as I was getting my ass slapped around by bots at certain times. That, I'm gonna have to say, that's another thing. I'm not going to hold you, the combat feels really good for its job. Most MMOs give me the most washed down generic spam macros and bash the fuck out of your left button mouse feel, but this game takes me to something I would compare to Elder Scrolls games with the type of combat it has. And I'm not talking about ESO, it has a very dungeon crawly RPG feeling to its combat. It might have just been the class I chose for a weapon, it was sword and shield, but I swear to God, it took me back to the Civil War against the Empire and the Nords, playing with such a hack and slash individual input layout. I mean, that and the the fucking war going on in the background, that's probably something else to point out. That's another thing to note, by the way. This game does an otherwise, I want to say, pretty solid job at atmosphere. I feel like the game isn't as atmospheric as a game like Skyrim or Fallout 4, but you're in a middle-aged Earth and you know it concretely. When I play a game like For Honor, I struggle with knowing it's literally impossible to have samurai exist at the same time and proximity as knights and Vikings, yet the game has the audacity to claim historical accuracy with teleporting ninjas, Andre the Yardsman, and this nigga does not exist. Who the fuck thinks there was an obese warrior on the battlefield? That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard of. This nigga weighs 500 pounds. An arrow to the knee would turn him into a guard from Whiterun. The combat is fluid and holds an inspired look to it that makes me appreciate it, given the arena brawler fashion and handles most of the tactics. Speaking of tactics, this game has a very interesting pawn or drone system, as I call it, where you're the commander of a small infantry or small army, if you're baller like that. In the tutorial, you start off with basic swordsman and spearman. However, I did a PvP arena match, and I had some dude who was straight up rocking fucking phalanxes. It was insane to me. This makes the game way more tactical, which is in my opinion a big positive in terms of active combat. They teach you how to utilize the infantry, and I really like how you can take serious advantage of territorial control or set up your own gang squad on a pesky hero character. There are a lot of tactical elements to consider when approaching the game, giving the combat that much more depth in terms of your involvement within it. Let me also rephrase what I said earlier. This game's combat is no fucking walk in the park. I was playing the tutorial during a castle siege and almost got my ass whooped twice. The only thing that saved me was this OP ass cannon and those OP hero characters who came to my rescue several times.
Get him, big bro.
In fact, aside from the dramatic level differences, I failed to win a single engagement in PvP. This shit is not something you can just whip a dick out and jump inside of. If you don't know what the hell you're doing, you will get slapped. Respect this game's combat. So after Sir Richard beat the tutorial, I was able to gain my freedom papers and head north. They give you a selection of main hubs. I guess I chose the most brawlic one because as soon as I get there, everybody was beating my ass. But before I could even get there, however, I will say there was an infinite loading screen loop that made me close application. The reason why I bring this up is because as I load back in, I find myself outside the designated area, unable to even get in because of a glitch. And after a couple of minutes of searching, I hit the menu button and guess what I see? As convenient as it could be, I see the ability to reset my location was there. And that level of forethought and convenience, I feel honestly deserves a shout out. Because let's be honest, if there was a certain dev team behind this shit, I would have just had to do a hard swallow and delete my character. The central hub is very boisterous, by the way. It feels like an actual town, and I love that about it. I was exploring around via free roam, trying to see all that's there, and this is what I meant when I said the game is truly an MMO. Aside from the several players on screen, this game has so many layers to its structure. Crafting, farming, traveling, resource collecting. They even had a currency in the game to wage a fucking war with enemy territories and strongholds. That's nutty. I even heard from certain folks there's a full-on open world exploration, which, you know, it makes total sense since everything else falls in line with MMO structures, you know. I remember getting my ass whooped in duels and trying to look for better gear to equip, only to find out there's a vendor right fucking there and trade systems in the game. For a beta, there was a lot of shit going on, and actually it was pretty crazy, to be honest. However, in the limited time I had to play the game, I had to choose what aspect I wanted to explore. So I chose what I always explore in games, the PvP. And if I haven't told you already, that shit is crazy. The wave of nostalgia back to like 2011, 2012 DCUO, watching people in open world just brawl like that, it was crazy, man. The duel system it's just fun. Like, honestly, there is zero negative detraction from it whatsoever. I absolutely love this feature and makes the pub hub that much more fun to exist in. Being able to beat up, or in my case, get beat up by folks in such spectacular fashion honestly makes this one of, if not the best functions I encountered. I love PvP, I think the PvP system as a whole is really solid, but this easily takes the cake for me. If I had to take a negative, it would probably be the HUD menu. The menu is honestly confusing to navigate, mostly because there was no real tutorial on how to use it. I was often finding myself scratching my head wondering what was going on, and yes, I am a noob. This is very much so a noob's perspective. However, as a noob, if there was more streamlined senses and understanding this game's HUDs navigationally, I think that would be a solid addition to the game. Another thing that kind of bothered me was the lack of voice acting from NPCs. I wound up reading text in situations where I would have really appreciated a real human voice to complement the dialogue. I personally don't feel this is even the focus of the game in terms of narrative. However, I still, in my personal opinion, would like to be able to hear more from the NPCs to make the game feel more alive. The game has so much to offer, and even though I wasn't able to explore all of it, from what I did explore, I can honestly say that this game is a solid IP. I would recommend you guys try it, try the different game modes and activities. I walked into this game with virtually no expectation. Found this out to be an otherwise pretty decent gaming experience. Of course, it is still in the beta, so things are apt to change, but for what it is right now, and where it is, I definitely think it's worth your time. Especially if you're into games like For Honor. I was gonna say some reckless shit like my For Honor viewers, but I fucking hate that game and wish not to be associated with it, honestly. But people who watch my videos don't give a shit about any other topic, and it shows. Hurts my feelings if I'm honest. That's cool though, I guess. As long as I keep getting more opportunities like this, I think I'll be able to crawl out of this hole eventually. Conqueror's Blade is solid. Try it out. Like, soon. Take your time, I suppose, but I think it's worth to look at, honestly. Unless your skin color is a shade darker than 2% milk. I'm just kidding. Kinda. And thank you to the studio who gave me the opportunity to sponsor your video on my channel. I'm very grateful for this, man. It's kinda crazy how in the 2 years I've been doing For Honor videos, I don't get a single call. But you guys went as far as to reach out and offer me this opportunity. I am very grateful, and I would like to thank you guys especially. Alright, y'all. Have a good day. This has been ArchWizard CJ. I wish you all a good morrow, and I'm off for the time being.
This has been an ArchWizard CJ special. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
West Coast, can you feel it? Dirty, South, dirty, dirty. Can y'all really feel it? East Coast, feel it. West Coast, feel it. Dirty, South, can y'all really feel it? East Coast, feel it. West Coast, feel it. Say what? Dirty, South, here we go. Can y'all really feel it? East Coast, feel it. West Coast.